The sliding doors of Lumina Confection sighed open with a faint hiss, and Kiara stepped through, clutching her daughter's tiny hand as though letting go would shatter her completely. The shop shimmered with floating hollow panels, each one showcasing sweets from distant systems, spun crystal candies from Vera, Prime, glowing fruit pastries from Aurealis, and cakes that shimmered like captured starlight. The air was heavy with the sweet, spicy perfume of Terran vanilla mingled with the sharp, floral tang of Zyphoran, spice blooms, a cruel reminder of pleasures just beyond their reach. "Mama, can I sit?" whispered little Serena, her voice nearly drowned by the soft hum of the shop's gravity regulators. Her scales, which should have gleamed like molten copper under the warm lights, were dulled and dusty, streaked from weeks of hard work and sleepless nights aboard the station. "Stay close, little Ember," Kiara murmured, lifting her daughter to her hip. Her own wings, once broad and regal, remained folded tightly beneath the tattered cloak she had scavenged from a refuse chute 3 cycles ago. The midshift crowd was a mix of species, a family of Centurions, their 4 eyes darting independently, examined translucent fruit tarts that sparkled under the hollow lights. Near the viewport, 2 human executives debated quarterly reports over slices of dark chocolate nebula cake. Everyone seemed at ease. Everyone except them. Kiara swallowed a bitter lump. She remembered the last meal they had, a half-spoiled protein paste she'd found behind the Deck 7 commissary. Her stomach no longer protested, but the soft whimpers of Serena in her sleep were worse than any pang of hunger. The line crawled forward. Each customer ahead moved with confident certainty, their credit chips chiming as numbers blinked across. The displays 30 credits for a small slice, 45 for a deluxe portion. Kiara's chest tightened. They had nothing. Less than nothing. Yet today was Serena's 5th birthday. She had to try. When they finally reached the counter, the clerk glanced up from his hollow pad. His badge read Gale, a Zalarian tall and slender, his skin the faint cerulean hue characteristic of his kind, eyes sharp, unyielding, black as polished obsidian. He drummed his 3-fingered hands against the counter, measuring them, cataloging every tear in Kiara's cloak, every streak of grime on Serena's cheek. "May I assist you?" His voice was polite but clipped, the slightest edge of skepticism threading through the syllables. Kiara lifted her gaze, steadying herself. "Good morning, I was wondering if you might have any cakes past their prime. Something you would otherwise throw away." Gale's thin lips twitched as though the request amused him. Kiara pressed on, her voice steady, though her cheeks warmed. "It's my daughter's birthday. She's 5 today. I thought maybe if there's anything you were going to discard, we could have it." The Zalarian leaned back slightly, his long neck arching as he looked down, his expression a mixture of curiosity and disdain. "Are you asking for free food?" "Not free, exactly. Just something that would go to waste." Kiara tightened her hold on Serena, who nestled closer, eyes wide with innocent hope. Kiara pressed Serena closer to her side, trying to melt into the shadows to become invisible. Gale's laugh cut through the warm shop air, sharp and metallic, deliberately loud. "Station security has been very clear about vagrants," he declared. "We don't tolerate that behavior here." "We're not vagrants," Kiara whispered, her voice trembling but firm. "We live on this station. We've just fallen on hard times." Gale's tone oozed mock sympathy. "Ah yes, haven't we all?" he said, raising his voice just enough for the other customers to hear. "Sierra, could you step out here for a moment?" Another one. A younger Zalarian woman stepped from the back room, her expression flickering from curiosity to unease as she took in the scene. Gale gestured at Kiara with disdain. "This individual," he said, emphasizing the word with a flick of his 3-fingered hand, "claims it's her child's birthday. How original." Kiara's voice quivered slightly as she met his gaze. "I'm not lying. She's 5 today. I just wanted just one small thing to make her day special." Gale cut her off, his voice rising as if performing for the entire shop. "Do you have any idea how many come through here each week with some sob story? Oh, my child is hungry. Oh, we've lost everything. Please help us." His mimicry was cruel, exaggerated, every gesture theatrical. "If we gave free food to everyone who asked, we'd be bankrupt before the week was out." A few customers stopped to watch. A human couple quickly averted their eyes. A Centuran family busied themselves with a display of moon cluster cookies. Only one person kept his gaze fixed. A solitary human man at a corner table, a cup of cooling Terran blend coffee before him, his weathered face unreadable. Kayara drew in a steadying breath, trying to preserve what dignity remained. I understand your position. I wouldn't ask if there was any other way. We haven't eaten in 3 days. I just wanted her to have something special, just once. 3 days? Gail's surprise was performative, almost mocking. And yet you're still standing, remarkable. Tell me, if you haven't eaten in 3 days, where did you find the strength to walk here? To spin this elaborate tale? Serena began to cry softly, hiccuping into her mother's cloak. Mama, let's go, please, let's just go. Kiara's hands shook as she smoothed her daughter's tangled mane. Just a moment, little Ember. No, Gale called after them as they turned toward the exit, his voice heavy with finality. The child has the right idea, and for your information, we have a strict policy. Here, no handouts, not even expired ones. This is a respectable establishment, not a charity. If you want cake, you work and pay like everyone else. Everyone else hasn't fled a war, Kiara whispered as they reached the door, pausing, exhausted. Everyone has excuses, Gale shouted after her. But excuses don't pay the bills. Perhaps you should examine your own poor choices instead of begging. The door hissed shut behind them, cutting off the warmth, the sweet aromas, and the cruel laughter that lingered in the air. In the harsh fluorescent glow of the station corridor, Kiara sank to her knees and drew Serena into her arms. I'm sorry, little Ember. I'm so sorry, she whispered. It's okay, Mama, Serena murmured, clutching her mother's neck with small, comforting arms. I don't need cake. I just need you. Kiara held her daughter tighter, speechless, feeling the weight of the station's indifference pressing around them. For a long moment, they were just two fragile figures amid the vast, mechanical expanse of Prosperity Station. They didn't notice the man at the corner table rising silently, folding his newspaper with deliberate care, or the way his jaw tightened as he approached Gale, moving with a dangerous stillness that spoke of barely restrained anger. Sterling Cray had seen enough. Owner of the Lumina confections chain, he had witnessed his employee humiliate a mother and child, and that would not stand. He followed them at a distance, staying in the shadows cast by the station's industrial pipes. Military training made it effortless. 20 years in the Colonial Defense Force had honed his ability to move unseen. Kiara navigated the station with grim purpose, despite her obvious fatigue, leading Serena through increasingly dilapidated sections. They passed the bright commercial corridors and cheerful crowds, descended through modest residential blocks, and finally reached the harsh industrial zones, where the station's heartbeat, its pipes, turbines, and servos, sang a cold, relentless rhythm. The air here was heavy with the metallic tang of recycled oxygen and the faint burn of machine oil. They had finally entered the station's forgotten veins, the maintenance, corridors, and abandoned sectors that the administration preferred to pretend didn't exist. Kiara paused often, each stop a visible strain. Her pride was the only thing keeping her upright. Her strength was gone. Serena walked beside her with the quiet resignation of a child who had long since learned not to complain, not to hope for what would never come. Sterling Cray observed them silently, noting the careful rhythm of their steps, the subtle weight of survival etched into every movement. They came to what had once been Cargo Hold 77, decommissioned decades ago after a hull breach and never properly repaired. Temporary patches had held, but nothing of value was ever stored here. Perfect for the station's invisible population, Kiara guided Serena through a gap in the chain-link fencing, revealing the dim glow of emergency lights and the patchwork shelters, crafted from salvaged materials. In the far corner, where the hull slanted to meet the deck, their refuge sat, a small haven shielded from the constant draft. Stacks of old shipping containers formed crude walls, topped with a tarp likely scavenged from the surplus depot. Sterling could see through the opening. Blankets layered over flattened cardboard, possessions arranged in neat piles, and something that pulled at his chest, a modest collection of learning tablets, outdated yet well cared for, alongside a few dog-eared paper books. Even here, Kiara fought to educate her daughter. Kiara helped Serena sit, removing her daughter's worn, human-designed shoes that were far too large and padded with scraps to fit her uniquely structured feet. She rubbed her daughter's feet gently, checking for blisters. "Mama, I'm hungry," Serena whispered. Kiara reached into her bag and produced a small ration bar. Emergency issue. Probably past its prime. She snapped it in half and handed the larger piece to Serena. "Eat slowly, little Ember. Make it last." "And you?" "I already ate," Kiara replied smoothly, hiding the truth. Sterling recognized the hollow look in her eyes, the subtle tremor in her hands as she tucked the remaining half back into the bag, saving it for the next meal. Serena ate with deliberate care, the focus of a child who knew how precious food had become. When she finished, she looked up at her mother. "Can we sing the birthday song?" "Even without cake?" Kiara blinked back tears she refused to shed. "Of course we can." She drew Serena close, and they sang, not the standard Terran melody, but a song of her own making, haunting, soft, and melodic. The notes lingered in the cold mechanical air, a defiant act of love in a place that had all but forgotten such things existed. When the final note faded, Serena closed her eyes tightly. "I'm making my wish now, Mama." "What did you wish for, little Ember?" "If I tell you, it won't come true," Serena replied solemnly. Then whispered, "I wished for us to stay together. Always, that's all I want." Kiara pulled her daughter close, silent tears finally slipping free, wiped away before Serena could see. "That's all I want too," she whispered. Sterling turned away, fists clenched. He had built his empire from nothing. 12 shops across the station, investments spanning 3 systems, but nothing he owned had ever moved him like this. He had lost his wife in the Korean War, had no children, and believed he had found purpose in building his small commercial dominion. Watching Kiara and Serena now, curled together beneath thin blankets, was different. He activated his communicator, typing with careful speed. "Need a full background check, adult female dragon refugee named Kiara, daughter Serena. Age 5, residing in Bay 77, priority 1, discreet." The reply pinged almost instantly. "Sir, it's 0300 hours. I'm aware. Priority 1. Understood. You'll have it by 0800. Sterling cast one last glance at the shelter where mother and daughter clung to each other, then made his way back through the winding station corridors. There was work to be done. The next morning, Sterling sat in his office aboard the upper ring, staring out at the stars as Morrison's report scrolled across the hollow screen. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, untouched. The file he opened first read, "Kiara Thundercale." Morrison's calm, measured voice filled the office with the soft cadence of briefing. Sterling leaned back in his chair, eyes scanning the incoming dossier on his holocom. Age 38 standard. Draconari from Peria 7. Former atmospheric systems technician. Certified for Class 3 operations. Married to Varric Ironwind. Union registered 8 cycles ago. He nodded, silently prompting Morrison to continue. 2 cycles ago, Pyra 7 fell to the Kreen advance. Most Draconari evacuated to the inner colonies, but several transport convoys never reached their destinations. The vessel Starlight Haven, carrying 300 refugees, was listed as lost, presumed destroyed. Some survived. A handful. "The ship?" Sterling asked. "Crippled," Morrison replied. "It limped into Prosperity Station on emergency power. By the time it docked, half the passengers had succumbed to system failures. Survivors were processed as refugees. But here's where it gets complicated." Sterling leaned forward. The administration classified them as temporary residents pending relocation. They were supposed to be moved to a proper refugee facility within 30 days. That was 2 cycles ago. His jaw tightened. "And her husband?" "Varric Ironwind survived the transit, but suffered severe radiation exposure during a reactor leak. He required intensive treatment, expensive treatment. Kiara took whatever off-the-books work she could find. Maintenance crews, cleaning contracts, anything not requiring documentation. Her records were destroyed when the ship was hit. Without them, she cannot gain legal employment, access refugee benefits, or enroll her daughter in station schools. She is invisible in every system that should protect her." Sterling stood and began pacing before the viewport, the stars outside a cold mirror to his thoughts. "Her husband died 14 months ago," Morrison continued. "By then, everything of value had been sold. Her grandmother's heirlooms, his pilot's wings, even their wedding bands, to pay for treatments that ultimately failed. After his death, she could no longer afford quarters. She's been living in Bay 77 for the last 8 months. 8 months? Sterling's voice dropped to a dangerous quiet. A mother and child in that frozen cargo hold for 8 months? They know, Morrison said cautiously. Station administration is aware of the vagrant population there. They conduct sweeps periodically. But, Sterling prompted, the dragons have wings, sir. When security arrives, they simply fly into the superstructure, hide in ventilation shafts. No one pursues them. Too risky, too much paperwork if someone is injured. Sterling was silent for a long beat, staring into the artificial cosmos beyond the viewport. Finally, he spoke. Morrison, find me the best immigration attorney on this station. I want a secure apartment. 2 bedrooms, nothing lavish, but clean and safe. I want it arranged before end of business today. Sir, if I may... You may not. Just do it. Yes, sir. Sterling ended the call and turned to his desk. Pulling up the employee file for Lumina Confections, Branch 4, Gael Zelanos. 3 years with the company. 2 complaints filed for rudeness. Both dismissed after he claimed the customers were attempting fraud. Several commendations from the previous. District manager for strict loss prevention enforcement. Sterling's lips twisted into a grim smile. Gael was about to learn the true cost of his standards. That afternoon, Sterling returned to the shop, this time unmasked. He wore his best suit, adorned with subtle military service pins. He moved quietly to the corner table and waited. It didn't take long. An elderly human man shuffled in, wearing the orange jumpsuit of a maintenance worker, grease stains still visible on his hands despite attempts to clean them. He patiently counted credits on a worn pad as he approached the counter. Excuse me, he said softly to Gael. It's my granddaughter's birthday tomorrow. I'm a little short. Could I put a deposit on a cake and pay the remainder next week? Gael didn't look up. We don't do payment plans. I have most of it, just 20 more credits, sir. Either you have the money or you don't, Gael replied flatly. This isn't a charity. The old man's shoulders slumped. I've been shopping here for 5 cycles. We appreciate your business when we can pay. Gael's tone was dismissive, final. Sterling rose from his table, all eyes in the shop following him. Even in civilian clothes, he carried the aura of a veteran who had faced far worse than a petty clerk. Actually, Sterling said, his voice cutting clearly through the murmurs of the shop. Give the gentleman whatever cake he wants. Put it on my account. Gael looked up, irritation flaring. Sterling's presence seemed to shift the air in the shop. Gael's irritation flashed across his blue-tinged features, almost bleaching him to a pale, unnerving shade. Sierra, who had been restocking the pastry case, froze, a tray of delicacies trembling in her hands. Sir, Mr. Cray, I didn't... You don't usually visit your own shops? Sterling asked, his tone calm, but every word carried the weight of command. No, sir, Gael stammered, but I've made exceptions lately, Sterling said smoothly, turning his attention to the elderly man at the counter. Please pick any cake you like. My compliments. The old man blinked, disbelief softening into gratitude. He pointed at a modest chocolate cake, and Sierra hurriedly boxed it, her hands shaking slightly. Sterling waited until the man departed, cake in hand, before focusing back on Gael. The shop had fallen silent. Conversations halted. Pretense of browsing vanished. Every eye was on them. Gael, Sterling began, his voice measured but deadly. How long have you worked here? 3 years, sir. And in those 3 years, Sterling pressed, how many people have you turned away? How many mothers have you humiliated? How many children left hungry because of your cruelty? I was following policy, Gael muttered, trying to sound firm. Whose policy? Sterling's voice dropped, soft and dangerous. Show me where in the handbook it instructs employees to mock mothers. Where does it say to delight in humiliation? Because those weren't just customers. They were people. Human, dragon, whatever species. You chose cruelty over compassion. Gael straightened, attempting to reclaim authority. With respect, sir, if we gave free food to everyone... Did she ask for free food? Sterling interrupted, his gaze sharp as a blade. Yesterday. Did she ask for free food? She asked for expired cake, Gael faltered. Expired cake you would have thrown in the recycler anyway. She asked for your trash, Gael, and you couldn't even give her that. Sterling tapped his communicator, bringing up a video file. Security pulled the footage from yesterday. The holoscreen flickered to life for the entire shop to see. Kiara's quiet dignity, Serena's trembling sobs, Gail's cruel laughter. Gasps rose from several customers. One woman covered her mouth in shock. You see, Sterling continued, voice cold, precise. What troubles me isn't just your cruelty. It's the pleasure you took in it. You enjoyed humiliating them. He leaned slightly forward. You're terminated. Effective immediately. Clear out your things. Gail's jaw moved like a fish struggling for air. You can't do this. I have rights. The union? The union does not protect employees terminated for gross misconduct. Publicly humiliating a 5-year-old on her birthday qualifies. Consider yourself relieved. Sterling turned to Sierra. You're promoted to manager, effective immediately. Your first task. Any food nearing expiration is to be donated to the Refugee Assistance Program. Anyone genuinely hungry gets fed. No questions asked. Charge it to my personal account. Sierra's eyes widened, then she nodded. Yes, sir. Of course, sir. He looked back at Gail, who hadn't moved. Still here? This is a mistake, Gail spat, voice trembling with fury. You'll bankrupt this place in a month. Then that's my choice, Sterling said evenly. But I'd rather go bankrupt feeding the hungry than prosper by stepping on them. Gail grabbed his things and stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Sterling waited a moment, then addressed the remaining customers. I apologize for the interruption. Everyone here receives 50% off their purchase today. He paused, letting his words settle. And if anyone knows the dragon woman and her daughter from yesterday, tell them they are welcome here any time. As Sterling exited, whispers erupted behind him. By morning, the story would, circulate across the station. Good. Perhaps it would make others think twice before cruelty became a habit. But he wasn't done. Not by a long shot. That evening, Sterling approached Bay 77, a sealed container of hot food in hand, sourced from the station's finest restaurant. Real food, roasted meat for the carnivorous dragon palate, fresh vegetables, warm bread, and a small chocolate cake adorned with sugar blossoms. He made no attempt to sneak in. Several dragons glanced up from their shelters, suspicion and fear in their eyes. Sterling met each with a calm nod, hands visible, posture non-threatening. Kiara sat outside their makeshift refuge, carefully stitching a tear in Serena's worn dress. The child's small wings shifted slightly with every movement, a protective reflex as Sterling's shadow fell across them. You, Kiara said softly, her eyes narrowing. You were at the shop yesterday. I was, Sterling admitted, keeping his tone gentle. My name is Sterling Cray. I brought some food. If you'll accept it. Kiara's gaze sharpened. Why? Because it's still her birthday week, and you think she deserves to celebrate? Sterling placed the sealed container on the ground, then took a careful step back. No conditions, no strings attached. Just a meal. Serena peeked out from behind her mother, golden eyes wide with curiosity. Is that cake? It is, Sterling said, smiling at her. Chocolate. Is that all right? The little dragon nodded, then glanced at her mother for approval. Kiara studied him for a long, deliberate moment before nodding. Thank you, she said, quiet but sincere. They ate in silence at first, Serena letting out small murmurs of delight with each bite. Sterling perched on a nearby crate and explained why he had truly come. The apartment he'd secured, the lawyer ready to sort out her papers, and a job once her documentation was in order. Kiara listened without expression, her features carefully unreadable. When he finished, she set her fork down. So what's the catch? No catch, Sterling replied calmly. There's always a catch. Nobody does something like this for nothing. Sterling's eyes softened, shadowed by memory. My wife died in the war. We never had children. We always said we would someday when life was more stable, when money wasn't scarce, when the timing felt right. He looked at Serena, who was saving half her cake for later. The truth is, the time is never perfect. Then it's too late. So, we're replacement family? Kiara asked, incredulous. No, Sterling said firmly. You're a mother doing everything possible for her child. And I'm someone with the ability to help. That's all there is to it. Kiara looked at her daughter, then back at Sterling. The man in the shop yesterday, my Gale, he said everyone has a sob story. He was wrong, wasn't he? Wrong about many things, Sterling admitted. There are hundreds, thousands of people like you on this station alone. I can't help them all. No, Kiara said, her voice soft, but you can help us. And today that's enough, Sterling said. Today I can make sure you and Serena have a safe place to sleep and food to eat. That's the start. Kiara was quiet for a long moment, the words settling around her like the cold air. Finally, she spoke. I don't want charity. This isn't charity. When the paperwork's sorted, you'll work. You'll earn your pay like any other employee. You're an atmospheric technician. I have 3 shops in the lower rings constantly dealing with air quality issues. I need someone who actually knows what they're doing. Until then, you'll be on training wages, learning our systems, our procedures. Everything above board, everything legal. Her eyes glistened, but she held them back. Why us? Sterling considered the question carefully. Because I was there. I saw it happen. And when someone humiliates a child on her birthday, and I have the power to do something, doing nothing makes me complicit. Mama, Serena said softly, can we really have a real home? Kiara drew her daughter close. I don't know, little flame. You can, Sterling said. The apartment is ready tonight if you want. Tomorrow if you need time. It's simple. Accepting it, trusting it, that's the hard part. Kiara nodded slowly. Sterling stood. I'll leave you to talk it over. My contact info is in the container. Whatever you decide, the food is yours. No strings. As he turned to leave, Serena's small voice called out, Mr. Sterling. He paused and looked back. Thank you for the cake. It's the best birthday cake ever. Sterling smiled. Happy birthday, Serena. Walking back through the station, he thought about cycles, how cruelty begets cruelty. But kindness can ripple outward too. One act at a time, one person at a time. Not enough to change the universe, but enough to start. 3 hours later, his communicator chimed with a single message. We accept. Sterling smiled and replied, Transport will be there in 20 minutes. Welcome home. The apartment was modest by station standards. 2 bedrooms, a combined living and kitchen area, a small bathroom with a real water shower instead of a sonic scrub. To Kiara and Serena, stepping through the doorway with all their belongings packed in a single bag, it felt like a palace. The shower. It has hot water? Kiara whispered. Unlimited, Sterling confirmed. The building recycles its own water, and the kitchen is fully stocked. Sterling had already arranged for his assistant to deliver groceries, but that barely mattered. Serena had discovered her new room on her own, squealing with pure delight as she explored the small bed with fresh sheets, the desk equipped with a simple learning terminal, and the viewport framing the infinite stretch of stars beyond. Mama, look! I can see ships coming and going, she exclaimed, her wings fluttering with excitement. Kiara walked slowly through the apartment, her hands brushing against every surface as though to confirm it was real. When she reached the kitchen and opened a cupboard full of food, her grip tightened on the counter to steady herself. This is too much, she whispered, awe and disbelief warring in her voice. Exactly enough, Sterling said gently. There's a station school 3 levels up. I've already spoken with the administrator. Serena can start as soon as she's ready. They have a program for refugee children. Helps them catch up on anything they've missed. She's very bright, Kiara said quickly, pride lacing her words. I've been teaching her myself, though without proper materials. I'm sure she is, Sterling assured her. The school will assess her and place her appropriately. They're good people. He handed her a data pad. All the information you need. Doctor appointments for both of you, just checkups. To make sure you're healthy. Legal services. Contacts, and then he slid a credit chip across the counter. Advance on your wages. Clothes, personal items, whatever you need. Kiara stared at it. I haven't even started working yet. You start tomorrow if you're ready. 3 hours a day to begin while Serena's at school. We'll increase your hours as you get comfortable with the systems. Which shop? She asked, a shadow crossing her face. Location 4, Sterling replied. The one you visited. Where Gail was and Sierra is now manager. She needs help implementing the new donation program. I thought you might have insight into what the refugee community actually needs. You want me to help give away food? Kiara asked, skeptical. I want you to make sure the right food reaches the right people in the right way, Sterling said. Who better than someone who's lived it? Kiara was silent for a moment. He was wrong, you know. Gail, we didn't choose this. Nobody chooses to lose everything. I know, Sterling said softly. My husband was a pilot, one of the best. I was an atmospheric technician, specialized in terraforming systems. We had a home, savings, plans for Serena's education. We were respectable. She let the word hang bitterly. You still are, he said. No, she whispered. Respectable people don't dig through garbage. Respectable people don't beg for expired cake. Respectable people, her voice faltered. Respectable people survive when survival seems impossible, Sterling interrupted. Firmly, respectable people maintain their dignity even when the world tries to strip it away. You, Kiara, are one of the most respectable people I've ever met. She studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow you meet my assistant Morrison, former military, strictly by the book, no sense of humor whatsoever. He'll probably drive you crazy within a week. A small wry smile tugged at Kiara's lips, the first Sterling had seen. I can handle it. Mama! Serena burst in from her room, wings flapping. There are clothes in the closet my size and they're new. Morrison did that, Sterling explained. He has 3 daughters and insisted on handling this part himself. Probably went a little overboard. Overboard? Serena exclaimed. There are 12 dresses. And shoes. Proper shoes. Sterling laughed. I'll speak to him about that. Don't you dare, Kiara said quickly, then softer, almost to herself. She's never had new clothes before. Everything's always been hand-me-downs or salvaged. Sterling watched Serena dash back to her room, her excitement making her wings flutter like tiny sails. She's going to be okay. Both of you are. I hope so, Kiara murmured. I know, Sterling said. You survived the destruction of your world. You lost your husband. 8 months in a frozen cargo bay. Now a warm apartment and a steady job. That'll be easier than what you've already endured. Sterling moved toward the door, pausing. One more thing. I had Morrison look into something. The Starlight Haven, your refugee ship. Kiara tensed. What about it? The captain reported an attack by Kreen raiders, but the damage pattern didn't match. The investigation was buried, but Morrison dug it up. It wasn't the Kreens. Pirates used the war as cover to target refugee ships. I know, Kiara said quietly. We all knew. But who would believe traumatized refugees claiming pirates attacked them? Everyone assumed we were confused. The trauma of the past had clouded memories, twisted them, but now there was a chance for clarity, for justice. The pirates who attacked your ship were finally caught last month, Sterling said as he watched Kiara's wings twitch with cautious interest. 3 of them turned state's evidence. Your testimony could help put them away permanently. More than that, it could open the door to reparations for the survivors. Not a fortune, but enough to give Serena a proper education. Enough to take some weight off your shoulders for a while. Kiara's eyes softened. Reparations enough for her future. Yes, Sterling said. The lawyer I've arranged for you specializes in cases like this. She thinks you have a strong claim. After everything you've endured. Maybe justice isn't impossible. Maybe sometimes if we fight for it, we can have it. Kiara nodded slowly, a quiet determination in her gaze. We'll fight, she said. Sterling pushed open the door. Get some rest. Tomorrow starts early. Morrison will pick you up at 0700 for orientation. Sterling paused in the corridor and Kiara called after him. Why are you really doing this? He considered the question, the distant glimmer of memory in his eyes. 20 years ago, I was a young soldier stranded on a bombed-out colony. Injured, starving, certain I was going to die. A dragon family found me. Civilians who had every reason to fear a human soldier. They could have left me. Instead, they hid me, fed me, nursed me back to health. They saved my life, so this is repaying a debt, no. It's understanding that we're all just people trying to survive. Sometimes we need help. Sometimes we can give it. Today I can give it. That's all. He left mother and daughter in their new home, already knowing his life had shifted as much as theirs. Returning to his penthouse, the space felt emptier than ever, but this time not permanent. Change was possible. People could change, even him. 6 months passed. Sterling stood at the back of Prosperity Station's community center, watching Serena accept an award for academic excellence. The little dragon scales shone under the lights. Her uniform crisp wings stretched proudly. As she gave her short speech, thanking her mother and Uncle Sterling for believing in her, half the audience reached for tissues. Kiara sat in the front row, wearing the supervisor uniform she had earned after 3 months of exemplary work. She had overhauled not only the donation program, but the entire logistics system for the Lumina Confections chain, increasing efficiency by 30% while ensuring that nothing edible went to waste. Proud papa moment, Morrison murmured, appearing at Sterling's side. Something like that, Sterling admitted. The lawyers had called earlier. The reparations case was approved, full compensation plus damages. Kiara and the other survivors would receive their settlements within the month. Good, that's good, Morrison said, studying his boss. She won't need the job anymore. With that money, she could go anywhere, do anything. Sterling's gaze lingered on Kiara and Serena, laughing and hugging on the stage. No, she's too proud to walk away from something she's built. Besides, I'm promoting her to district manager next month. Does she know? Morrison asked. Not yet, Sterling said. They watched in quiet contentment as families celebrated around them. Dragons, humans, and a dozen other species, all beneficiaries of the program Sterling had quietly funded. The food bank, job training, legal aid, and school support. It had cost him a fortune, but his shops had never been busier. Helping a community, it turned out, meant the community helped you back. Sir, Morrison said carefully, there's something else. What? Gale, he's been spreading rumors, trying to damage your reputation. Claims you're soft, that you're destroying the business values that made the station prosperous. Sterling snorted. Let him talk. Anyone who thinks kindness is weakness hasn't been paying attention to history. He's also been hanging around Bay 77, security flagged it. That got Sterling's full attention. Doing what? Nothing illegal. Just watching, making the refugees nervous. I recommend doubling the security rotation down there. Discreet but visible enough to make him think twice. Already done, sir, Morrison replied. Sterling smiled. The man was worth his weight in pressed platinum. Serena broke away from her mother, running toward them. The award clutched tightly in her hands. Uncle Sterling, did you see I won? He caught her as she leapt into his arms. The warmth in his chest far outweighed her small weight. I saw, little flame. I'm so proud of you. Mama says we're having cake tonight to celebrate. Real cake from your shop. Sterling laughed, the sound warm in the bustling hall. Any cake you want, little flame. You earned it. Kiara approached, poised and graceful. But the soft smile she wore softened the years of hardship etched across her face. Thank you for coming, she said quietly. Wouldn't miss it, Sterling replied, his eyes scanning the small apartment with the familiarity of someone who had been welcomed into a home. She studied him for a moment, her amber eyes searching. You look tired. Long week, he admitted. 3 new shops opened in the outer rings. I probably work too much. Kiara let out a soft laugh, genuine and bright, drawing a few curious glances from those who remembered the broken dragon woman she had been 6 months ago. Fair enough, but at least I get to go home to someone. And you, he teased lightly, just go home to that empty penthouse. It's not empty, she said, hesitating. I have a very expensive coffee machine and a view of the stars. Sterling shook his head, smiling. I meant company, not espresso. She considered him for a long moment, then nodded as if settling on a decision. We're having dinner tonight. Family dinner. You should come. I wouldn't want to impose, he said. Uncle Sterling, you have to come. Serena interjected, bounding forward. I made dessert myself while Mama helped. Well, she helped a little. I did most of it. How could he refuse that? And so that evening, Sterling found himself in their modest apartment, sleeves rolled up, helping set the table while Kiara moved around the kitchen preparing the meal. Serena chattered nonstop about school, friends, and the science project she was planning. The scene was domestic, comforting and exactly what he had convinced. Himself he didn't need, but wanted more than he realized. After dinner, as Serena proudly displayed her latest drawings, Kiara settled beside him on the couch, close enough that he could smell the faint, ozone-like scent all dragons carried. She loves you, you know, Kiara said softly. I love her too, Sterling admitted, his voice carrying both warmth and certainty. Both of you. The words lingered between them, heavy with unspoken possibilities. Kiara's scaled hand found his, intertwining with his human fingers. Is this complicated? She asked. Everything worth doing is complicated, he replied. The species difference. Does it bother you? No. But I'm not the one whose businesses could suffer if people talk. He looked directly into her eyes. Let them talk. I've learned something in the last 6 months. When you do the right thing, the right people notice. The wrong people? Their opinions stop mattering. Kiara leaned against his shoulder, a gesture of trust that would have been impossible half a year ago. Serena asked me the other day if you were going to be her new papa. she said softly. What did you tell her? I said that's up to you, he said, watching Serena carefully color within the lines, her tongue peeking out in concentration. I had a wife once, he admitted quietly. Loved her completely. When she died, I thought that was it for me. Built walls around myself, focused on work, convinced myself it was enough, and now? Now I know there's no limit to love. The heart doesn't have a maximum capacity. It keeps growing if you let it. Mama, look! Serena held up her drawing. 3 figures holding hands in front of a shop window full of cakes. A human, a tall dragon, and a small dragon. Above them, in careful letters, she'd written, My family. Sterling's throat tightened. Perfect little flame. Can I put this on my office wall next to the others? I'd be honored, Kiara said with a soft nod. Later, after Serena had gone to bed, Sterling and Kiara stood on the small balcony, gazing at the lights of the station stretching into the void. I need to tell you something, Kiara said quietly. The reparation money. Morrison told me it was approved. I heard you deserve every credit. It's enough that you wouldn't need to work. That we could leave and start fresh somewhere else, Sterling said, his chest tightening but his voice steady. Is that what you want? Kiara asked, turning to face him. 6 months ago, she admitted, all I wanted was to be anywhere but here. This station was only bad memories and closed doors. But now it's home. Because you're here. She reached up, her claws gentle against his skin. Serena isn't the only one who loves you. Sterling drew her close, holding this remarkable dragon who had survived so much, who had maintained her grace despite the universe's cruelties. Stay, he whispered. Both of you. Not because you have to, but because you want to. Because I want you to. Because I... He took a deep breath. Because I love you too. Kiara kissed him, soft and deliberate, bridging the gap between species with something far more fundamental. Connection. Understanding, hope. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes, we'll stay. From her bedroom doorway, Serena peeked out, grinning. Her birthday wish, whispered all those months ago in a frozen cargo bay, had come true. They were together. They were family, and they always would be. A year later, Prosperity Station's newest community center opened its doors. The Kiara Cray Foundation, funded by Sterling but bearing both their names, opened its doors to a flood of hope. It offered food, shelter, legal aid, and vocational training to refugees from every corner of the galaxy, regardless of species. Outside, Gale Zealand watched from across the street, his posture stiff, his face tight with resentment and disbelief. He had lost 3 positions in the last year, his reputation trailing behind him like a shadow. The story of the cruel manager who had denied a child a birthday cake had spread across the station, a legend and warning whispered in every corridor. He observed Sterling and Kiara cutting the ceremonial ribbon, their daughter nestled between them. Here stood a human who had married a dragon, a refugee who had become a respected business owner, a child who had gone from abandoned and starving to an honor student. Gale's chest tightened. That should have been him. He had followed every rule, enforced every policy, guarded every credit, and upheld every standard. And yet Sterling's seemingly soft policies had done the impossible. They had made Lumina Confections more profitable than ever. Shoppers streamed from every ring of the station, drawn to a place where every being was welcomed and valued. A small dragon child tugged at Gale's sleeve. Sir, you dropped this. He looked down to see a colorful flyer for the Foundation's job training program. Words printed in bold, no strings. No judgment, just help. I didn't drop it, he said, his tone clipped, defensive. The child shrugged and skipped away. Gale crushed the flyer in his hand, hesitated, then stared at it again. His savings were nearly gone. His pride had cost him everything. Across the street, Sterling noticed him, murmured something to Kiara, who glanced toward Gale with unreadable expression. Then she did something completely unexpected. She nodded. Not forgiveness exactly, but acknowledgement. Recognition that people could choose to change. Gale uncrumpled the flyer and read the fine print at the bottom. We believe in second chances. He drew in a slow, steadying breath and stepped toward the community center. Perhaps it wasn't too late. Perhaps he could understand what Sterling already knew. The kindness was not weakness, it was the greatest strength. Inside, Sterling watched Gale fill out an application for the job training program. Kiara touched his arm gently. You sure about this? She asked. Everyone deserves a second chance, even him, Sterling said. He hurt us, and we survived. We thrived. Maybe seeing this will teach him more than any punishment ever could. Serena ran up, her junior volunteer badge glinting against her scales, practically shining with excitement. Papa Sterling, Mama, we've already helped 12 families today. Sterling scooped her up, spinning her around. That's my girl. 12 families who will sleep better tonight. Can we help more tomorrow? She asked, eyes bright with hope. Every day, little flame. Every single day, Sterling said, holding her close. Around them, the community center buzzed with celebration, laughter echoing from dozens of species, conversations in multiple languages mingling into a harmonious hum of life. Sterling held his family, human, dragon, child, proof that love transcended species, that kindness could triumph over cruelty, and that even in the vast emptiness of space, warmth could be found. The Lumina Confections Emporium continued to operate, still profitable, yet now it symbolized far more than commerce. Each expired cake that nourished a hungry child, every job offered to someone desperate, each act of kindness in a universe too often indifferent, all began here, with one man's decision to see the humanity in others. The bell above the door chimed as another family stepped inside, hope replacing fear in their eyes. Sterling smiled, watching. This was his true success, not credits, not awards, but lives transformed, dignity restored, love blossoming in unexpected corners. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Refugees would still arrive. Resources would remain stretched, and there would always be those who chose cruelty over compassion. But tonight, in this luminous, lively space filled with laughter and chatter from a dozen worlds, none of that mattered. Tonight, they were just people helping each other survive and thrive. 3 stories, 3 lives converged in a small apartment 3 levels up. 3 drawings now hung on the wall, past, present, and future. 3 figures holding hands, not bound by blood, not limited by species, but united by choice, by love, by the radical act of caring in a universe that often forgot to care. It had begun with an expired cake, but it was love, real, unwavering, that had made them whole.